Hey everyone, my name is Miss Lakeen and I am a third grade teacher here in St. Tammany Parish. I am so excited to get to be with all of you today and to get to do a little science experiment because science is always fun, right? Today you will need a few supplies. You're going to need 2 pieces of loose leaf. You're going to need 4 books, 20 pennies, and tape and scissors and a ruler if you have one. You can definitely do this without a ruler. And I really want you to go ahead and do this experiment along with me. Anytime you need to pause the video to maybe try something out, to build your own design, change it, modify it, I want you to do that because you're going to learn way more doing it yourself than just watching me do it. So the whole idea for this experiment all came to me the other day when my 2 nieces were outside and they were playing a game of tug of war. And if you're not familiar with the game of tug of war, it looks kind of like this. Usually you have one person on each side of a rope, or maybe 2 equal groups on one side of the rope. And the goal of the game is to pull the rope towards you and to get this little flag tied in the middle to come closer to your team. And when we were playing it, we had a little pool of water underneath the flag, so that way whoever lost would also end up falling in the pool and get wet and have a little more fun. So I was watching my 2 nieces play this, and it was just the 2 of them pulling against one another. And it was so strange. They sat there, I would say almost 5 minutes, pulling the rope towards one another, and it never moved. That little flag in the middle almost stayed completely still. This obviously started frustrating them because nobody likes a tie. That's no fun. So I decided I would play. So I stepped up and I played against one of my nieces, and almost as soon as I pulled the rope, boom, she went right into the pool and got soaking wet. So I had my other niece come up. I said, all right, well, that wasn't very fun. That was too fast. Why don't you play against me? So as soon as she came up and we counted 1, 2, 3, pulled the rope, and maybe 10 seconds later, she was in the pool too. So it really got me thinking, that's just so strange. How come when they were playing, the rope didn't move at all? And then when I played with them, the game didn't even last a minute and the rope pulled right towards me. I do know from science that if an object is not moving, then the forces that are acting upon it are balanced, right? I know that when an object does move, then that means the forces that are acting upon it are unbalanced. But I was really wondering what causes that to happen. And that's sort of the question I want to explore with you today. What causes balanced forces to become unbalanced? What causes unmoving objects to start moving? And the way we're going to explore this is actually through building a bridge, because a bridge is something that an engineer definitely wants to make sure the forces are balanced upon, because you don't want your bridge to break or collapse. So the way we're going to build our bridge is we're going to take our books and we're going to place 2 books on each side. It's going to act like maybe our land or our buildings that our bridge is going to connect. So I just have some cookbooks here. If you want to use textbooks or whatever you have laying around, that's fine. You just want them to be pretty equal in height. And then we're going to take one of our 2 pieces of paper and lay them across the books. And you want your books to be close enough so that way your bridge makes a pretty nice horizontal line parallel with the ground. So I've got my paper across here. Looks pretty straight. Okay, we built our bridge. It looks like it's holding up perfectly, right? I do know that gravity is always pulling all objects towards the earth. So gravity's pulling on this bridge right now and it seems to be working fine. I think I just kind of hit it out of the park first try. But hang on a second. There are some other forces that act upon a bridge, right? Sometimes people might walk across them and that'll push down on the bridge. Sometimes cars drive across them. That can really push down on the bridge. So this is where our pennies are going to come into play. We're going to use our pennies to act as if they are the people or the cars, depending on what kind of bridge it is, that are pushing down on our bridge. So I would like our bridge to be able to hold up 20 pennies while the forces are still balanced. So let's see how my design right now does. 1, 2, not looking so good. Oh man, only 2. So although it did work initially, once we added more downward force, not so great. So what I want you to do is go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to come up with your own design, or you can modify the design that I have here using, remember, your paper your scissors, your glue, and your ruler, or your tape if you don't have glue, and see if you can improve upon my bridge so that it can hold up 20 pennies, or at least more than 2, right? So usually when I go to build a design, I like to kind of plan it out first, draw it, and then build my model. So I'm gonna kind of draw what we have so far. Right, here's our land or our books. And so far we really just have kind of a straight beam across them. And that's our paper. And we already talked about, I know that gravity's pulling down on my bridge. And then when we added the pennies to act as if it were a car or a person, I know that that's also pushing down on my bridge. So looking at this, I'm realizing, well, there's a lot of force pushing down on my bridge. And if I want it to be balanced, maybe I need something that's gonna push up on my bridge. But how could I do that? All I have is paper. I have an idea. So I live really close to the Causeway Bridge that goes across Lake Pontchartrain. And I've noticed when I drive across it, it makes these kind of bumps as you're going across where there's these pillars underneath it, right? Almost like a column. I'm wondering if those columns help to push back up on the bridge. That if I build some pillars underneath it, that upward force will help to balance out all the downward force. So I think that's the idea I'm gonna try first, and we can see how it goes, right? We can always change it if it doesn't work. This is where I am gonna use my ruler so that I can measure the height of my bridge, and it'll just make cutting those pillars a little easier. All right, so it looks like we're right at 7 centimeters. My bridge isn't too big. I think I'm just gonna make 2 pillars, and like I said before, if I need to add more or change it, that's the fun thing about science, and that's the good thing about building a model is you can make as many mistakes as you want. Okay. I'm gonna cut my paper right here to create my 2 pillars. And then I'm gonna roll them up. And then I'm gonna use the tape just to secure the pillars so they don't unroll. Maybe they'll be a little more stable that way. I wish I could see the designs you came up with. And remember, if you did something different than pillars, that's fine. We'll test them together and we'll see whose design ends up working best. Probably came up with something a little more creative than I did. Okay, let's tape this one. And slide it under. Put one in the front and one in the back. And let's see how this goes. Remember, my original design only held up 2 pennies, so I'll be happy if we improve upon that. But my goal is really for it to be able to hold all 20 pennies. All right, so are you ready to test yours? Let's see how it goes. And if you don't have 20 pennies laying around, you can use any kind of coin that you want. I would say try and use the same type of coin, or you could even use buttons or something like that, but just that way you're adding the same amount of mass each time. All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're definitely doing better than last time. 8, 9, 10, 11. I dropped 2. 12, 13, 14, 15, 5 more, 16, 17, 18. Oops, I dropped 1. 19. Oh man. Well, at least I know it held 19. I need that 20th penny, but it slipped underneath my kitchen counter somewhere. That's the fun of doing science at home, right? Either way, I know I definitely improved upon my design. It was able to hold 19 pennies. I have a feeling, because it looks pretty stable, that it could probably hold 20 pennies as well. So, if your design didn't work out, that's fine. Go ahead and modify it and change it. If it did work out, I challenge you, could you maybe hold 100 pennies? Could you build a longer bridge or a taller bridge? You could even try out some different supplies, maybe popsicle sticks, straws, pasta, whatever you kind of have laying around the house. There are some other designs you could go for too. If you did pillars like me, you could maybe try out like an arch bridge, or you could do a suspension bridge. Maybe use some string and some toothpicks, that would be cool. Or a truss bridge. No matter what you try, every time you're going to get to learn and kind of understand a little bit more about physics, and especially those balanced and unbalanced forces. So that can be really fun. Let's kind of bring this back to my tug of war game though, right? What did we kind of learn from this that relates to the tug of war game that I was playing with my nieces? Well, we know with our bridge that originally it didn't move because the forces were balanced. And what caused the forces to become unbalanced and cause our bridge to move was when we added more force pushing down in one direction, right? So there was more force going in one direction, and that caused the bridge to collapse. So in our tug of war game, which I kind of sketched out for you here, I'm a very good artist. In our tug of war game, there must have been more force going in one direction. So if I know, think about my niece, I know for sure she was pulling the rope towards her. She wasn't just letting me win. And I also know I was pulling the rope towards me. And that's the direction the rope moved in. So I'm thinking I must have pulled with more force towards me. And that's why the rope moved in my direction. The force was unbalanced when I pulled with more force than my niece was able to pull. At least that's kind of what I'm thinking was happening. But I bet the more that you're able to experiment and build with your bridges, the better you're probably going to understand what was happening in this strange tug of war game. No matter what, I had so much fun learning with you and to do this experiment with you. I hope you had a great time too, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.